The M10 was an American tank destroyer, and although reliable, the time of the M10 had come. Due to the Germans using more armored tanks like the Tiger I and the Panther, an upgrade was needed to keep the M10 from being obsolete. This is the story of the M36, also known as Jackson. Before we get into the M36, I would like to talk about the M10 first, since both of the vehicles have things in common. The M10, also known as the Wolverine or Achilles, was an American tank destroyer. It had a 3-inch 76mm cannon in its turret, which was a bit unusual because when people think of tank destroyers, they usually don't mention turrets. And although the 6064 twin diesel engine gave the tank a good mobility of around 50 km an hour, that wasn't a problem, unlike with the T95. The problem was that the cannon was slowly becoming less and less effective. Although Great Britain tried to upgrade the M10 by putting the 70-pounder in it instead of the 3-inch gun, it helped the tank out from being able to take out the Tiger and the Panther. The chance of succeeding was not the biggest. If I was a soldier, I would bet my money on it. That's why the Americans thought they could do better. They created the M36. The 90mm gun motor carriage M36 was designed in September 1942. The 90mm proved to be a worthy challenger, but the M82 armor-piercing round of the M36 had the chance to take out the dangerous German foes, such as the Tiger and the Panther. With that success, in August 1942, it was decided to immediately produce 500 vehicles. If those tests were successful, then a further 3,500 would follow. However, this wasn't the case, since the tank destroyer force argued that the T-53, an earlier prototype of the M36, was too rushed, and the 90mm T-53E1 proved to be unworthy, and the contract was cancelled. In October 1942, a new test was made by the Ordnance Department. They did experiments with the 90mm T7 gun into the turret of an M10 tank destroyer. The tests were positive, but one problem was quickly found. The 90mm was too heavy for the M10 turrets to handle. Therefore, a completely new turret was designed, renaming it 90mm gun motor carriage T71. It was however at this time that the M18 Hellcat was being designed, although being favored by General Andre Bruce, the head of the tank destroyer force. The M18 Hellcat was ignored and focus was shifted back to the M36. In September 1943, the first two prototypes of the M36 were completed. What is worthy mentioning is that the request of a full production of the M36 was rejected at first because of the study of 90mm guns into tanks. But later, in October 1943, permission was given by the Army Ground Forces to produce the vehicle. The new turret of the M36 was decided to put on top of a hull of the M10A1 tank destroyer. This was done by the US Army because they made the M10 hull in significant numbers. What proved to be even better is that the hull of M10A1 had even better mobility than thought. After further testing, an order of 300 more M36 was given and the T-71 was designated upon standardization on the 1st of June 1944 as 90mm gun motor carriage M36. With this, the production of the M36 had begun. Many M10A1 hulls were converted to mount the new turret, but crews were unhappy about the lack of a proper travelogue for the gun. Also, the muzzle blast from the gun reduced the view of the crew and the rate of fire. Therefore, a double bevel muzzle brake was fitted to all the vehicles. Eventually, in November 1944, a proper travelogue for the 90mm gun was made and added to the rear of the hull. As the last M10A1 hull was converted into the M36, the contract of 300 vehicles was increased to 500 and later even to 600. However, on May 15, 1944, it was found out that an M10 had troubles against the German vehicles like the Panthers and Tigers. During the Normandy campaign, it was decided to up this number even more to 1400 vehicles. On the 29th of July 1944, the Americans faced a problem, as only 913 M36s of the 1400 build could begin their training, and due to rapid decrease in M10A1 hulls, it was decided to switch gears to the hull of the M4A3 Sherman. With some interior assemblies required, the program of these M36s with the M4A3 hull were designated 19mm gun motor carriage M36B1. This ran from October till December 1944. A final batch of 200 hulls of the M10A1 were converted by Montreal Locomotive Works in May 1945. As the supply of M10A1 hulls ran out in January 1945, it was decided that the hull of an M10 would stay as the basis for the M36, so more hulls were produced. Now get your popcorn, because we're about to dive into the action. In October of 1944, the first M36s made it overseas and were ready for battle. These M36s were supplied to tank destroyer battalions by the 1st and 9th US Armies. Battalions like the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, 610th Tank Destroyer Battalion and 814th Tank Destroyer Battalion, all re-equipped with M36s. The 767th Tank Destroyer Battalion did have M36s, but did not use them in combat until November 1944. The M36 quickly became a fan favorite among American tankers, because of the fact it was one of the few American fighters that could put up a fight against German monsters. The 814th Tank Destroyer Battalion scored first blood, with Corporal Anthony Pinto claiming a M36 knocked out a Panther at 4,200 yards or 3,800 meters. Another member of the 814th Tank Destroyer Battalion, Gunner Alfred Rose, claimed to have killed another Panther, this time from 4,600 yards or 4,200 meters, although this is not confirmed. And by the end of 1944, the M36 has replaced almost every M10 in service, with in total 27 Tank Destroyer Battalions switching to the M36. But some only use it partly. One of the few downsides, however, in combat was the open turret. Sure, this gave the crew more vision, and may have also been the reason of the Panther kill from Alfred Rose. Crews did have that uneasy feeling of being hit by a mortar any minute, since the turret had an open top. The M36 was used during the attack on Metz, during the Battle of the Bulge, and the invasion of South France. Note that in the invasion of South France, it fought alongside the 3rd Infantry Division till the end of the war, not with a Tank Destroyer Battalion. The M36 didn't get to see combat in the Pacific, but it was planned to take part in the invasion of Japan. After World War II, the life of the M36 wasn't quite over yet. It was used in the Korean War and with success. It could destroy all Soviet-made AFVs deployed in that battlefield. Even extra machine guns were mounted to the hull, and with the shortage of M26 Pershings and M46 Patton, the M36 became even more popular. During the Korean War, around 110 M36s and a small group of M10s were used. After that, they were exported to countries like France, Pakistan and Yugoslavia. Siberian forces did use the M36, just like Croatia in the Kosovo War. Even at some point China got their hands on some M36s, but keep in mind these M36s were from the French. Later a top modification was made that would close off the roof. In total a number of 2,324 models of the M36 were produced. And I can say with confidence that the M36 was a vehicle which greatly improved the US Army capabilities in fighting the German monsters such as the Tiger and the Panther the American tankers faced. Now some of you may wonder why I called it M36 the whole video instead of Jackson, because Jackson seems so much simpler. Jackson is an unofficial name for it and was used as a designation in the post-war and was never used by the American Army itself. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. It was a bit weird seeing such a video on my channel, but I hope you guys liked it. I certainly did. If I missed some information, leave it down in the comments and make sure you leave the source you found it in. Feature which tanks you guys want to see on the series, because yes, you heard it right, maybe I will make a series out of this. So hopefully I will see you in the next episode or in another video of mine, who knows. Anyway, if you enjoyed, feel free to subscribe, like and share, and take care, tanker.